Joint smoothing. Once the joint has been left to cure, the seaming tools can be removed, and as you can see, there is a line of excess adhesive left on the surface. A router can be used to remove a substantial amount of this excess adhesive. To aid the removal of this line, a standard worktop jig can be used. Place the jig across the line of adhesive and use the corresponding guide bush to run the router in a straight line across the joint. This process is a brief router pass that saves a lot of time, as opposed to immediately using a sander on the adhesive line. The result of this step is that you are left with a far thinner adhesive line, which is flat, making it easier to sand. It will then only need brief sanding to be leveled with the worktop surface. This smoothing process is continued by sanding the remaining adhesive line to a level result. In this instance, we will show how to remove the adhesive line, assuming that a router pass has not been performed. When beginning to sand the adhesive line, use duct tape positioned on both sides of the joint to avoid sanding the worktop surface. As you can see, the sander is marking the tape rather than the worktop. This is done with 240 grit sandpaper. Continually wipe away residual dust from the surface. The same process is then applied to the front face of the worktop. In addition, the bottom edge is to be sanded as well to remove any residual adhesive from the underside of the front edge. After the initial passes with the sander, the tape can be removed and the sanding continued with 320 grit sandpaper, alternating between a north-south, east-west sanding pattern. Employ a 50% overlap on all sanding motions. Continually wipe away residual dust from the surface to prevent uneven sanding results. The sanding pad should also be continually checked and any dust buildup removed. Feather out your sanding area by the width of a sanding pad at each sanding level. A minimum of 2 repeats of each pattern per grit level is required. This process is continued to get the surface back to the 400 grit finish at which it is supplied. As you can see, in a very short space of time, the adhesive line is completely removed to leave just the jointed surface. The same process is then applied to the front face of the worktop. Once this has been done, the area can be wiped fully to remove any residual dust, and you are left with an inconspicuous worktop joint. Remember, use a router to save time and avoid extra sanding. When sanding an adhesive line, keep the sander level at all times. Feather out your sanding area with each sanding level to avoid dishing of the joint. Continually remove dust particles created to ensure a consistent surface finish.